Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go after the lefts, we go after the rights, we go after the middle and independents, we go after all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything. And you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on. It's going to be fun. All right, guys. Today's date, July 19th, 2023, and this is How the Frack We Got Here. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, How the Frack We Got Here. We do take the events of the week and try to make sense of it all. Before we get started, guys, we do consider ourselves a news station, which means that we try to give you the most reputable sources to where we pull these media from. We do not go to Newsmax. We do not go to Fox News or The Blaze or The Daily Wire or The Daily Beast. Like I said before, reputable with award-winning journalism, not extreme conservatism. But with that being said, guys, welcome again. Choice language may be said sometimes just because words do fly. At the same time, maybe things that might be shown that might be too intense for younger viewers, but viewer discretion is advised. Aside from that, welcome. So how do we actually start this? Well, we start this really in the best way I know how. Trump, of all people, is not really having a great day. Let's start with this little fun piece of news.
Special Counsel Jack Smith, strong indication he's going to be indicted again, this time on charges of trying to overturn the 2020 election. Our chief Washington correspondent John Carl is tracking the latest. And John, this is an almost unfathomable situation here. You have a former president facing multiple felony charges in multiple jurisdictions.
It sure is, George. And this target letter, this latest target letter from Jack Smith came as something of a shock to the Trump team. Trump had been told by some of his top advisors and top lawyers that they expected that Smith's January 6th investigation would conclude with a final report, not with an indictment. And now, George, they are scrambling to mount a defense to the most dire legal jeopardy Trump or any other American president has ever faced.
Federal prosecutors are now zeroing in on Donald Trump's attempt to cling to power after he lost the 2020 election. This is about more than the January 6th attack on the Capitol. Prosecutors are examining whether Trump illegally tried to overturn an election that he knew he lost. Sources familiar with the target letter Trump received from special counsel Jack Smith tell ABC News it mentions 3 federal statutes: conspiracy to defraud the U.S., witness tampering, and, quote, deprivation of rights under the color of law, which applies when someone in authority uses their power to deny the constitutional rights of other Americans. Trump called the letter horrifying news, and overnight he told a cheering crowd in Iowa that it was an attempt to interfere with the upcoming presidential election.
They want to try and demean and diminish and frighten people, but they don't frighten us because we're going to make America great again. That's all there is.
In recent weeks, Smith and his team have spoken to election officials in several key states where Trump and his allies pressured local officials and allegedly tried to create slates of fake electors. In Michigan, that alleged scheme led to indictments just yesterday. The state's attorney general charged 16 Trump allies for a, quote, organized effort to circumvent the lawfully cast ballots of Michigan voters. Federal prosecutors have also spoken to Trump's closest advisors, trying to establish whether he knew he lost the election when he sent his enraged supporters to the Capitol. Republicans on Capitol Hill, including Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy, reacted to the target letter by attacking the prosecutors.
The idea that they utilize this to go after those who politically disagree with them is wrong.
In the days after the January 6th attack, McCarthy and other lawmakers, the very victims of that riot, spoke differently, calling it criminal and Trump responsible.
Last week's violent attack on the Capitol was undemocratic, un-American, and criminal. The president bears responsibility for Wednesday's attack on Congress by mob rioters.
The target letter is a strong indication that an indictment is likely to come and to come soon. George, it could be as early as Friday of this week or sometime next week.
Yeah, it's almost certain.
Ooh, that's not good news for Trump. Of course it isn't, because, well, the simple fact of the matter is As we've said before, he is facing multiple lawsuits. That was a special counsel. The counsel that he requested, because at the same time, he thought he was getting an unfair shake. So let's request special counsel. Well, the special counsel came back and said, well, you got charges coming. And again, he does what he does best. He goes to his favorite crowd. He brings up all the greatest hits and turns around and sits there and says, oh, they're out to get me to basically, how can I put this in so many ways? To basically sit there and say, oh, they don't want me in this election. Well, you are right to a certain extent. We don't want you in this election. We see what happens when we have you for 4 years. It's not fun at all. But when you look at the charges, conspiracy to defraud the U.S., witness tampering, basically compromising an election or attempting to compromise elections, when you have those type of charges, that usually means your ass is about to go to jail. And at the same time, as you heard in the story, 16 of the electors have now been charged in Michigan for trying to throw ballots to win in Trump's favor. I don't know how else I can tell you this, but what's also amazing, Kevin McCarthy, the House Speaker, that man, you know what? He must have learned from Mitt Romney, because Mitt Romney will flip-flop like a pancake at IHOP. And at the same time, it's amazing. Kevin McCarthy, the same guy who denounced Trump post-January 6th, where he got all of his favorite nationalist supremacist friends to try to storm the Capitol and somehow not being called terrorism. On the day after, he sits there and says that the president should be, the president at the time, which was Trump, should be condemned. Whereas now, the prosecutors, they just have it in for him. No, because we've been saying this since Trump got elected. This is what happens when you bring in a con man. When his administration was full of con people, his administration was full of arrests, resignations, and some jail time. Some of his people did jail time. Some of his people are now state property, which means they're turning witnesses. But again, this goes to this whole point I'm saying. It is amazing how insulated this Dorito is, that we have to go. And people are like, well, why do we have to go through all this? Because that tells you how much pull this man has. Not only with certain individuals, because there's a large population that still believe Trump is the president. A large population still believes everything he says. And that's scary enough. But imagine the GOP still being behind him. They may say we're denouncing Trump, but if Trump were to be a presidential candidate right now, the scary part is he might actually win again over the field of individuals that's out there right now. Trump could win again. And that's scary, really scary, because nobody wants to see the second version of Trump. Oh, and God forbid if DeSantis wins. That's Trump 2.0. It's bad. The next one will be harder to get. Hard to see exactly what he does, because now these Republicans have figured out, we can change the rules however we want to. Because in the House currently right now, all things they're doing, not helping American people, they just passed a pay increase for themselves. A pay increase for doing nothing but being elected. But now Trump is worried. He should be worried, because like I said, that's just one of many. Not forgetting the lawsuit in Manhattan, not forgetting his documents in Florida he took, not forgetting that he may actually be pulled into Georgia if the DA there decides to press charges. The man's lawyer department must be billing him like it's Christmas. But even more so, he actually might have a saving grace, only because, one of the judges he appointed may actually give him a pass and extend his court date.
No recusal. Judge Eileen Cannon, who was appointed by Trump and is now presiding over his classified documents case, issuing her first order since Trump pleaded not guilty, a sign that she has no plans to heed the calls to recuse herself. But above all, it is Cannon's decision, of course, to side with Trump last year in this very case that is leading many to fear that she will be sympathetic to Trump. In September, she granted Trump's request for a special master to review the sensitive documents seized at Trump's Mar-a-Lago home. Trump immediately posted, quote, "Remember, it takes courage and guts to fight a totally corrupt Department of Justice and the FBI." The reality, of course, is that Cannon's decision was overwhelmingly derided and quickly overruled by a conservative appeal.
Yeah, overruled because it should be. But again, this is what should worry you. That this judge that is over the case. Now, keep in mind, this is another lawsuit. For all those that don't remember, Trump was caught with boatloads of documents he's not supposed to have. Just last month, we played a video of audio that literally talked that he is literally going over classified information that he admits that he shouldn't be looking at. At the same time, why are we worried about this judge? This judge is one that he appointed. He selected, got appointed, got put on the U.S. District Circuit Panel, and could possibly push back the date of this case beyond December of this year. Now, you're probably asking, why is that important? Next year's a presidential election. And for some odd reason that some people don't believe that, well, if a person's running for president, that they shouldn't be hindered by little things like lawsuits and court cases. Whereas the rest of us, if we got a court case and it's our freedom on the line, then no amount of excuses are going to get us out of that. But somehow Trump gets a pass. At least that's what a lot of people are thinking. But at the same time, it is amazing how Judge Aileen Cannon did not recuse herself. Think about that for a second. Because if you really, I mean, if it's a damned if you do, a damned if you don't. Because let's just dream a little bit. Let's say Aileen Cannon turns around and says in the ruling that, yes, he is found guilty of the Espionage Act, sentencing to follow. Oh, well, she's a turncoat. Trump got her to that position. How dare she turn on her president? Or say she doesn't. Oh, well, there was already a fix from Jump Street because she was appointed by the president. All the more reason why she should have recused herself. Kajani Brown Jackson, Supreme Court Justice, recused herself in areas dealing with Harvard. Why? She's affiliated with it. All the more sense for her to recuse herself because that way there's no bias, there's no favoritism, everything is fair and equal. Whereas in Ms. Cannon's case, chooses not to, but the scary part is she may actually turn around and help the president. Time will freaking tell. Speaking of time will telling, guys, two, this next story is weird because one, it's about Ron DeSantis, and two, the other part of it is a long-standing issue that really grinds my gears when people talk about this, but I'll play the video first.
Tonight, a shakeup for Ron DeSantis' campaign. The Florida governor fired about a dozen staffers last week with more layoffs possible. It comes as NBC News is first to report new financial records show his team spending millions with little to show for it.
We always knew with these national polls that was a sugar high.
And with polls suggesting the prospect of a Biden-Trump rematch seeming more likely, some voters are willing to consider something different.
I mean, we need someone in the middle.
We need somebody that's going to help unite the world that we're in right now.
Democrat Joe Manchin, the West Virginia senator, known for often bucking his party, openly flirting with a White House run as an independent.
Are you taking it off the table?
We're not taking anything off the table. Let's see where everybody goes. Let's see what happens.
Manchin publicly joining the organization No Labels in New Hampshire today. The group is launching a massive $70 million effort to create a third-party presidential campaign, a bipartisan ticket with a Democrat and a Republican joining forces. Former Utah Governor, Republican John Huntsman, also hit the road with the group today.
For us to do the same old thing is like a little bit insane.
The group will not say who else is under consideration. Nancy Jacobson is the leader of No Labels.
This is the one moment that this could be possible. So why not give people a choice if they don't want these two choices?
But many, well, opposed to a second Trump presidency, fear a third-party ticket could siphon votes from Biden and boost Trump. William Galston helped found No Labels 13 years ago, but he left the group in April.
Don't think that I wasn't tempted by it, because I was. But in the end, and as a Democrat, I felt I had no choice but to walk away. Yeah.
No Labels says it intends to qualify for the ballot in all 50 states before its convention next April. That's when the group says it could announce its ticket.
Okay, So let me actually get to the first part. Ron DeSantis is feeling the heat a little bit because in polls, he is still trailing behind Trump. Imagine you know, supposedly the dictator of Florida, the man who says, woke, whenever you come to Florida is where woke comes to die. The man who sat there and challenged African-American history and said that it has CRT with LGBTQ implications. The man that sat there and said, don't say gay in our schools and in our state. The same man who said, you know what, abortion should be outlawed and it should be a felony, is now having an issue connecting with the rest of America. Oh, the irony of it all. At the same time, guys, yes, he is burning through cash because the election itself, yes, it is a political system, but it's also a money-driven system because we let Citizens United still run. It is amazing to me that ever since Citizens United was upheld, lobbying in America has gotten worse because now it's all about who has the bigger paycheck. If you have the bigger purse, you could buy a politician. That goes for Democrats and Republicans alike. If you have the bigger paycheck, you have the sway. And at the same time, it always bothered me that money, no matter how much lobbying you did, no matter how much you try to push people forward, that money, for some odd reason, is never outlawed in an election. And that has always, always bothered me. Because at the same time, it comes down to who do the rich people want? Because that's what a lot of people do. A lot of people sit there and say, well, my vote doesn't matter because the rich people will always get the rich will always get what they want. The special interest groups will always get what they want. And for years, I used to argue, look at the most recent elections if you think your vote doesn't matter. Because a vote that matters is the reason why now we have a black senator out of Georgia. The reason why your vote matters is because for the first time, Georgia, in a long time, I think in 50 years, Georgia became a blue state instead of a red state. So your vote does matter. But again, the conundrum of it all is that how do we get rid of lobbying? How do we make the other situation of just like, how can we get money out of politics? When it's very easy. Make it a felony. Make it forbidden. I'm going to be honest with you guys, I really wish they treated money in politics the same way Republicans treat women's bodies. You're so gung-ho about abortion, but yet you are very, very silent when it comes to money in politics. But I guess you don't want to kill your cash cow because what's more lucrative in America these days than owning a successful business, playing professional sports, or, basically being a politician? Because you've never heard of such things as a broke politician. Just saying. But the other part of that, the third party choice. Guys, again, for all the people that don't know, there are more than two parties in our political system. There really is. It's just the fact that the Democrats and Republicans are the biggest cash parties that we have. I mean, you have the Green Party, you have the new Black Panther Party, several others. And feel free to Google them up because they're all there. They're registered. But the third choice, which again, I find it interesting that they want to say no labels. A no label. See, this is my problem. That they call it no labels. What is this? Marketing 101? Who was watching Mad Men? No Labels is a platform to introduce a third choice outside of a Democrat or Republican. But who's your two top campaign picks? A Democrat and a Republican running on the same ticket. So you have John Huntsman and Joe Manchin. Joe Manchin, who I have sat there and saw this podcast, might as well be Republican. He is a moderate Democrat. Moderate Democrats are Republican light. They really are. And Manchin, for all those in West Virginia, please tell me if I'm wrong, Manchin hasn't done anything for West Virginia except line his own pockets. He has shot down multiple progressive measures Joe Manchin has shot down. He has shot down the Build Back America plan. He has shot down the Women's Rights Act, which they tried to pass in the event that Roe versus Wade got overturned. He shot that down too. He shot down the National Voting Act, the Voting Rights Act, would have made election days holidays to where you can go and don't have to worry about working a job and still getting to the polling places on time to vote. He shot that down too. Shot down the John Walker Act. John Lewis Act. Why? Because it would prevent gerrymandering and state redistricting and prevent gerrymandering. He voted against that too. So 4 measures this man has voted against. At the same time, you want this man running for presidential candidates? Waiting for a presidential candidacy? No. Hell no. I mean, if you're going to be Republican, be Republican. But don't sit there and be wishy-washy and say, it's kind of like he's stuck in the closet, but he doesn't know who wants to come out yet. I'm Democrat. No, I'm Republican. I'm Democrat. I don't know. I'll stay here. And it's amazing to me that people are behind this. We need somebody that's going to bring America together. Why is it always white folks that say that? Only delusional white people be like, well, we need somebody that's going to bring this country together. Every minority, when we hear this, weren't y'all the same people that, yeah, your ancestors kind of had a hand in that. But at the same time, guys, the other thing that grinds my gears about this, really and truly, is that I have said this for years. If you don't like which candidate that comes out, either run for office, which a lot of people have done in recent times, or find a candidate that you believe is great and push them. Tell people about them, share their messages, become their spokesperson, push these candidates forward. I'm not just talking at the federal level, but at the local and state levels as well. Because again, if you're not satisfied with the crop of candidates that's out there, change the narrative. But don't sit there and be like, oh, we need somebody that'll bring together the nation. Do you have somebody in mind? If not, here are your choices. But yeah, it's just it grinds my gears when I hear stuff like that. It kind of makes me laugh that DeSantis is starting to realize reality starting to hit him. But at the same time, guys, when it comes to our elections, which again I still believe in, it's just the fact of the matter that when it comes to 2 things, I wish we can get rid of money in politics, which we can do if someone were to bring up Citizens United with the Supreme Court, strike it down. I mean, if they strike down Roe versus Wade, then Citizens United should be open season. That's all I'm saying. But then again, I still want the Supreme Court to answer to another group because as of right now, there is not an ethics committee that the Supreme Court answers to. And it's amazing that nobody sees that as a problem. But speaking of problems, guys, I find this interesting that a certain representative of the Democratic House, within the House of Representatives, sat there and said some comments about Israel, which make me wonder, but at the same time, they really aren't wrong.
So, Ryan, what's the latest you're hearing from folks on Capitol Hill?
Well, there seems to be a divide, Chris, amongst the recognition of Israel specifically versus their current leadership. A lot of Democrats, particularly on the more progressive side, are not big fans of Benjamin Netanyahu, the current prime minister. And you saw in Jayapal's response, or somewhat of a retraction to the statement, that she wasn't talking about Israel specifically, but more about the current regime and the way that they're going about conducting business, particularly as it relates to the treatment of the Palestinian people. But, the Jewish members of the Democratic caucus want to make it clear that they don't think even that type of language is acceptable. We've obtained a draft letter from several of these Democratic members that specifically talk about the comments that Jayapal made, saying that they're deeply concerned about her unacceptable comments about her historic Democratic ally, Israel, and we appreciate her retraction. They go on to say that we will never allow anti-Zionist voices that embolden anti-Semitism to hijack the Democratic Party and this country. But to Jake's point earlier, Chris, this is a divide within the Democratic Party, one that Republicans clearly enjoy exposing, and it comes at a time where Israel is going to be in the spotlight with the president's remarks here later this week.
Okay, so for all those that are wondering, so basically the woman that was pictured there, right? She characterized Israel as a racist state. Keep in mind, between Israelites and Palestinians, it is a never-ending battle. I've never understood this about the Middle East because, again, when we got involved in the Middle East, really only because of the Saudi family and oil, that Israel was always seen as the Holy Land. And you have those of a certain religious background that are in Congress believe that we should protect the Holy Land. I've never understood it. My problem is that we gave foreign aid to Israel. Netanyahu, when he was the prime minister there, sought actually funds from us, which Israel did get, about $200 billion. Now, keep in mind, that was just a couple of years ago, but $200 billion they got from us. And at the same time, nobody asked questions about why in the blue hell are we still giving foreign aid to Israel? Because the only thing I can think of is, does Israel have dirt on us? Did they have dirt on the U.S.? Because we give them money every year. Every year they get foreign aid from us. And I just have to ask this question. Why? At the same time, so she called them a racist state. And this is the problem I have with this. It's just that when it comes to Israel, it's always a mixed bag of things. I truly believe that if you're going to speak on something, you better have the data, you better have the literature, reputable sources, as we do on this podcast. You better have everything to back it up. That being said, yes, she's going to walk back her comments because certain groups have certain areas of power. Don't believe me? You can't say anything bad about a Jewish person, not be called anti-Semitic. But you can say anything you want about a black person, and nobody blinks an eye. Don't believe me? The next story that we're going to play will prove my point.
Tonight, the demand for answers surrounding the mysterious disappearance of Carlee Russell is growing. The 25-year-old nursing student returned home Saturday night after she was reported missing for more than 48 hours. Her mom sharing on social media, "God is faithful and he has answered our prayers," thanking the public for their support and vowing to ignore negative opinions. It comes as there are mounting questions about the circumstances of Russell's disappearance. Late Thursday, Hoover police say Russell called 911 to report a toddler walking alone on the interstate. Police now analyzing this surveillance video, which they believe shows Russell's car. They say she pulled over to check on the child while on the phone with a family member who heard the unimaginable.
She heard a scream and then some type of running type shuffle.
Within minutes, police say they were on the scene.
Just be advised, her vehicle is unlocked, running. All her personal belongings except for her phone.
Police arrived and said they found Russell's car, cell phone, and purse, but no sign of her or a child, adding that no child has been reported missing. Then on Saturday night, Russell showed up on her family's doorstep, alone and on foot, police say. Angela Harris, who led search efforts on the ground, says she spoke to Russell's mom moments after she returned.
I just broke down and I said, "Is she okay?" And she said, I don't know, she seems to be okay. She just seems to be in shock.
Medics responded and took her to the hospital for evaluation, police say. She was released Sunday morning. A man identifying himself as her boyfriend writing on social media, she was literally fighting for her life for 48 hours, adding she is not able to give any updates or whereabouts on her kidnapper. Police declined to comment on that post, but say they have spoken with Russell and plan to interview her again in the coming days.
Now, of course, with the woman in that video, we are grateful. Don't get me wrong, Carlee Russell, we are grateful that she has been found and returned, because there's still plenty of black men and women and children that are still missing to this day. That being said, it is amazing to me that the court of public opinion, no matter how you look at it, and I was saying this a long time ago, the court of public opinion is a fickle bunch. Because now, as they said, the negative comments, unless you've been on social media, you'll know exactly what those negative comments are. She made it up. This is another Juicy Smoothie moment. If you don't get that reference, I suggest you watch Dave Chappelle as he talked about a certain member that claimed he was beaten up. It turns out the whole thing was staged and that he had a whole court case about it. They're trying to say that the same thing happened in this situation. Now, I fully believe in all the facts first. before any judgment is concerned. Because in this country, we are innocent until proven guilty. Not sure what happened to Carly Russell, but due diligence and due process should be allowed. But again, with the court of opinion, they wanted facts yesterday. They'll make up their mind and they will rule and sit there and say, well, she made the whole thing up. Look at her search history, because those are coming up. People are going to say, well, this was her search history. This is what she was looking at before, she disappeared. And it is amazing to me that they're calling her all types of names before anything that either exonerates her or condemns her comes out. And I find it funny that we just got to talking about a representative of Congress calling Israel a racist state, and the Jewish community are immediately speaking out. And I said it before and I'll say it again. Certain groups have power in this country because they have money and status and influence. But again, you can say anything you want about a black person, and again, nobody bats an eye. Tell me I'm wrong. But we will follow that story as it comes along. The other story that's actually going on right now in America, business-wise, the Actors and Writers Guild are on strike with Hollywood. Been going on for a few weeks now. We talked about it, but the reason why we're talking about it today is because this is the reason why I say CEOs are out of touch with reality. Bob Iger, who recently came back and took over Disney, had choice comments about the strike. Take it how you will.
Speaking of content, we're in the midst of a writer's strike, and very likely it would seem to have a actors' strike. How is that going to impact things, and what are your expectations there?
Well, I think it's very disturbing to me. We've talked about disruptive forces on this business and all the challenges that we're facing and the recovery from COVID, which is ongoing. It's not completely back. This is the worst time in the world to add to that disruption. I understand any labor organization's desire to work on the behalf of its members to get the most compensation, to be compensated fairly based on the value that they deliver. We managed as an industry to negotiate a very good deal with the Directors Guild that reflects the value that the directors contribute to this great business. We wanted to do the same thing with the writers, and we'd like to do the same thing with the actors. There's a level of expectation that they have that is just not realistic. And they are adding to a set of challenges that this business is already facing that is, quite frankly, very disruptive.
So they're not being realistic?
No, they're not.
Why not?
I can't answer that question. I respect their right and their desire to get as much as they possibly can in compensation for their people. I completely respect that. I've been around long enough to understand that dynamic and to appreciate it. But you also have to be realistic about the business environment and what this business can deliver. It is and has been a great business for all of these people, and it will continue to be, even through disruptive times. But, being realistic is imperative.
What do you do in the interim then? Does AI
Well,
start to write a lot of scripts?
It will have a very, very damaging effect on the whole business, and unfortunately,
The strike will.
There's huge collateral damage in the industry to people who are, who are support services. I could go on and on. It will affect the economy of, different regions even because of just the sheer size of the business. It's a shame. It is really a shame.
Okay, so it's amazing when it comes to CEOs how out of touch they really and truly are. What I mean by that is he says actors and writers are not being realistic. Actors and writers are not being realistic. Really? Well, it's amazing because I said with CEOs, let me tell you something about CEOs, okay? Or people that have money, when you have a lot of money, what I mean, okay, in the words of Chris Rock, there's rich and there's wealthy. When you are wealthy, when finances are no longer a problem, your view of the world is different because money's not a problem anymore. Things like bills and rent and utilities and insurance and car notes and emergency items that come up that you have to pay for. No longer a thing, no longer a major thing, a thing of the past, one less worry off your mind. Because you have financial security. And with that being said, I have always said this, those that have financial security, real good financial security, and I'm not saying this for all CEOs, but for a lot of them, they have this disconnect with reality. Simple fact of the matter, guys, is actors, the Writers Guild, let's start with them first. The Writers Guild, Guild of America, when they went on strike, were basically the essential workers of Hollywood. Writers were getting paid a flat fee. They weren't getting royalties. They weren't getting anything from streams and DVD sales. They were just getting a flat fee for their services. That's it. Off movies that have made, if not millions, at least billions of dollars, to where the movie studios, to where CEOs have made buku bucks. Don't believe me? I got a list, literally and figuratively. David Zaslav of Warner Bros. Discovery. And keep on, this is just the top 10. The top 10 highest paid executives in Hollywood. David Zaslav, nearly $499 million. Ari Emanuel of EGH, almost $347 million. Reed Hastings of Netflix, almost $210 million. Bob Iger, the man himself, who came back to run Disney and also got an extension of a contract with Disney, nearly $196 million. Ted Sarantos, formerly of Netflix, $192 million. Rupert Murdoch of Fox Corp, $175 million. His son, Lachlan, $171. Brian Roberts of Comcast, $170 million. Joseph Iannello of Paramount Global, nearly $153 million. And just at the bottom of a multi-million-dollar list, Patrick Whitesell of Endeavor Group can make close to $144 million. But Bob Iger is going to sit there and say that the writers are being unrealistic. Really? Well, it's kind of funny that, in this day and age, only in the U.S., because again, and I point this out, and I back this up with facts, because only in the U.S. that we trail last in a couple times, the wages when it comes from CEOs to workers. And I say this because literally and figuratively, CEO pay, as you can see there, guys, skyrocketed nearly 1,460% since 1978. Back then, a consensus almost 2 years ago showed that CEO to typical worker compensation was literally 399 to 1. 399 to 1 in 2021. In 2020, it was 366 to 1. And a big increase. And then keep in mind, in 1965, 20 to 1. In 1989, 59 to 1. It goes up every year. And at the same time, Bob Iger, CEOs like him are saying that guys who literally, keep in mind, it takes, in just an estimate, in a company where a CEO is making that much money, that nearly almost 400 people's salaries is equivalent to what one CEO makes. The CEOs of these companies who own all of this media out here, not just movies, just streaming shows, TV shows, music videos, your favorite Ratchet shows, all owned by this small conglomerate of people who are making buku bucks. But the writers and now the actors are saying it's unfair. Even if you go to SAG-AFTRA, which again, here's the crazy part when he says they're being unrealistic, because this is actually from the SAG-AFTRA website I want to show you guys. So this was a SAG-AFTRA proposal, of course, AMPTP, that's a lot. Basically the company that represents movie companies and CEOs. Look what they said. SAG-AFTRA sat there and said, we want 11% general wage increase in year 1, 4% increase in year 2, and 4% increase in year 3. Without an inflation-adjusted year-one-year wage increase, members will be working for lower real wages in 2023 than they earned in 2020 and would likely still be working for lower real wages even in 2026. Here's where they countered. The movie companies countered. 5% in year one, 4% in year two, 3.5% in year three. They basically sat there and said, we're just going to give you what we believe is what we think we can get away with, which again is bullshit. I apologize for the word, but it's bullshit. New media revenue sharing. Here's the big thing. Cast share in the revenue generated when their performances are exhibited on streaming platforms. This will allow cast to share in the success of high-performance shows. This goes for shows that are streaming either on Netflix, Paramount Plus, Hulu, or any other streaming services. AMPTP rejected it. So that tells you off the bat exactly what they're covering. And again, you can keep going. I mean, you can literally keep going down. Wage invasion due to advance payment of residuals. We can keep going. That they go into singers, they go into dancers, where they literally, they agreed to some things, but they didn't. I mean, it is crazy. And again, I can spend a whole podcast on this. I'm trying not to really trying to go through it, but you can go on the SAG-AFTRA website at sagaftra.org and you can view the proposal themselves. You can view the proposal for yourself. But when you look at it and you cringe, because don't get me wrong, a lot of us have Hollywood dreams. I mean, I would be lying if I sit there and say, I would love to be an actor. I would love to be a writer. I would love to actually be in that spotlight. I really and truly would. But at the same time, look at how writers and actors are being treated. It is no different. And again, this is coming around what is quote unquote a hot labor summer. Let's not forget, there's strikes going all over the place. One of them is about to be one of the biggest logistical companies, UPS, where its drivers are about to go on strike if nothing is done by the end of July. So it's about to be a hot labor summer. At the same time, might want to watch your packages. But that just goes to show you that amazing when a CEO says they're not in touch with reality, when it's them that are not in touch with reality, because they refuse to share the pieces of the pie. So the actors and writers have said, okay, good luck trying to produce things. And again, the dangers of AI is already something we covered here, because an AI writing scripts or an AI trying to direct a movie, or the fact that they're trying to use the likeness of an actor to put them in a CGI movie to keep creating movies is nuts. But that just goes to show you how far the entertainment industry will go out of their way to not compensate these writers and these actors, because they got the directors figured out. How do they do that, by the way? That's my question, because directors are just as essential, but yet you got to deal with them with no problem, but yet you won't pay writers and you don't give actors what they ask for. Out of a really a nearly $1 trillion industry. But CEOs and movie companies are saying, no, there's not enough to go around. You'll just have to be okay with your essential worker pay. And I say to that, F that. Strike on. It's going to be get used to reading books and enjoying the library for a little while, ladies and gentlemen, because it's going to be a long time. And I hope, it is my hope, and I'm going to be a little bit biased here. I do hope that the actors and that the writers stay strong. And you can go to sagaftra.org to see how you can help them. Moving along, guys. This is the part where I keep saying, what's wrong with America? They don't want to pay people. Everything goes up on your paycheck. And again, the math ain't wrong.
A decision by Russia could push food prices here in the U.S. even higher. Moscow is pulling out of a deal that allowed Ukraine to export grain by sea. Countries around the world rely on those grain shipments, which could send prices soaring. The war is already pushing the cost of some groceries higher due to grain shortages. The price of bread here in the U.S. jumped more than 11% last month compared to just a year ago. The cost of cookies jumped 8%, while beer rose 5%.
So again, that's just grains. And of course, since we're not a heavy producer of grains, we get them from exports. So that means, again, things like bread's going to go up, cookies going to go up, and if you drink beer, that's going to go up. Everything goes up but your paycheck. Figure that one out, because the simple fact of the matter, pay people. You know, we keep on saying, well, what inflation? Well, people aren't just buying stuff. People aren't, being consumers, because we're trying to keep the lights on the roof over our heads. We're trying not to get evicted. We're trying not to be without a job. Some of us are trying to make sure that our kids are still being fed and that they're able to go to school and that they're able to enjoy some semblance of life. But at the same time, it is amazing to me that the answer is clear. Not only with strikes that are going on, with just the economy in general. And I keep on pointing this out. The minimum wage is still $7.29 an hour in 2023. So the whole idea, honestly, guys, of everything going up but your paycheck is true. But every time they say that we're going to increase your pay and your paycheck, that the prices are going to go up. That is BS, because as you can see, prices are going up regardless. Moving on, guys, Biden is licking his wounds after the Supreme Court had struck down his student loan debt relief plan, and he has decided to unveil a new plan, and I'm slightly concerned.
Breaking news from the White House this morning. The Biden administration has announced that it is automatically forgiving $39 billion in federal student loan debt for thousands of borrowers. NBC News senior White House correspondent Kelly O'Donnell joins us with this breaking story. So, Kelly, this news comes about 2 weeks after the Supreme Court rejected President Biden's debt relief plan that would have forgiven up to $20,000 in student loans for more than 40 million people who have been impacted by that. So what do we know about this new announcement from the Biden administration?
Well, Joe, when the Supreme Court put that plan from the Biden administration on the shelf, saying that was not lawful, they could not go forward, the president and the Department of Education were looking for other ways within the law that they could argue where they have authority to try to relieve some of the burden. And so the Department of Education today is announcing this plan, which looks at a system that connects repayment of loans to people's income level. And it found that there was an administrative flaw, they say, in the system over the years that needed to be updated and fixed. And this is under the powers under the Higher Education Act and within the authority of the department secretary. And so what they've been able to do is grant this loan forgiveness for those people who qualify under this program. And it's a considerable number. And it is much smaller than the sweeping plan they talked about. But it's one of the tools that the administration and the president have said they would be trying to deploy, looking for ways within the law, within the system to provide relief. And so they argued that there were credits that those borrowers who had been paying back their loans over years were not properly given. And under the law, those who had paid their loans over a sweeping period of 20 to 25 years were supposed to have forgiveness. And the math on that had not been kept up to date. And so this is part of trying to make this administrative fix. And the result will be giving a reduced burden of debt and a real windfall for those who qualify. Not a full piece, as the president hoped, but a step in the direction of providing relief for student borrowers. Joe?
Kelly, we want to ask you another story about that building behind you there, a major development in a story we've been following.
Okay, so as they talk about the cocaine that was found in the White House, still they weren't able to see where that came from. That's neither here nor there. So President Biden and his administration is moving forward into the IER income repayment plans and saying, I think we can forgive $39 billion because some folks have been making payments, but nobody in the Department of Education is keeping up with it. So now you're saying, well, it's a little misleading because, again, they're trying to say, well, because of this oversight, some people may actually qualify for student loan debt forgiveness up to $39 billion. Here's my problem with this, that if nobody at the Department of Education is really paying attention to these income repayment plans, which, again, if you don't know what they are, income repayment plans are based on your income to where you might pay a quarter or a fraction of your monthly stipend, a monthly payment to your student loan debt holder. And, after 10 years or so of making payments, your loan will be forgiven. Sounds like bullshit, right? Because it basically is. Because think about this. Nobody's been paying attention at the Department of Education on this. So that just goes to show you how big is the backlog that some Americans who probably do qualify for that on those income repayment plans are still paying. because this is the whole entire problem. And at the same time, who's not to say the Republicans won't rear their ugly heads again, or, certain individuals that decide to sue and say that, my loans weren't paid off, so my loans don't get paid off by this, so how do I not qualify, and ruin it for everybody else? That's my problem with this. It's just that Biden may do a lot of things right, but this one right here is a big one. For the simple fact of the matter, why not just forgive all student loan debt? You can forgive $39 billion, but you can write a blank check to the Pentagon. That's the part that just amazed me so. Or you can make sure that predatory lending with student loans does not attach to students when they sign up for these loans, so they're not stuck with this debt for the rest of their days. Why is there not legislation in place to make sure that doesn't happen? To make sure that if a student takes a loan, they're not stuck with it for the next 40 years. Or that banks should be penalized or even given the death penalty for predatory lending. That to me would be the big win. Because again, nobody's asking questions about these colleges and their tuitions going up, but the education is still the same. Nothing new is getting paid for. Nothing new you're getting given. It's like going to the same 4-year university and your tuition goes up every year. Why? Same education, different price. Everything goes up by your paycheck. Do you see a common theme that we're going on here? But anyway, with this, it's a step, but it's not a solution. And that's the problem. And that's always been the problem with Biden, that if I was on the Republican side and if I had lobotomy to be a conservative, I would attack Biden on that. Everything's always been a half measure, a half step, because he and his Democratic Party could never get along. Really, two people, because the House at the time when they had a slim majority, the House was okay. It was always Manchin and Sinema, two Democratic senators, when they were trying to get things through reconciliation, would never agree. And trust and believe, Manchin definitely won't agree to this because he's too busy being paid by student loan debt companies. But speaking of things that don't make any sense, imagine that we may have another 4-star military African-American who could be the head of one of our largest armed forces groups, but a man who has an issue with abortion in the military is holding everybody up. Yes, it's a real thing, and I wish I could make this up.
U.S. military in limbo as Air Force General Charles Brown Jr., President Biden's nominee to be the next chair of the Joint Chiefs, remains blocked from a confirmation vote. Waiting along with him is General Eric Smith, nominee for Commandant of the Marine Corps, now working in an acting capacity. They're just two of the 265 key military nominations unconfirmed, unable to get a vote in the Senate, held up for months by Alabama Senator Tommy Tuberville, who is staging a one-man blockade over the Pentagon's policy on reproductive care.
I'm standing up for the Constitution and the unborn.
It's a culture war with the U.S. military caught in the crosshairs. Senator Tuberville spoke with the defense secretary this week, but hasn't spoken with the president.
He's jeopardizing U.S. security by what he's doing. I expect the Republican Party to stand up, and do something.
And while GOP leaders have pushed back on Tuberville, today, the Republican-led House passing a critical annual defense bill by a slim margin, and only after attaching amendments that would ban the Pentagon from reimbursing troops who travel out of state for an abortion or for transgender surgeries and hormone treatments, and prohibiting funds for diversity programs.
A military cannot defend themselves if you train them in woke.
Whether you're talking about women, whether you're talking about trans people, this bill says that we're going to make it more difficult for you to get a fair shake in the military.
Tensions flared Thursday when Arizona Republican Congressman Eli Crane used racist language.
My amendment has nothing to do with whether or not colored people or black people or anybody can serve, okay? It has nothing to do with color
Mr.
of your
Speaker.
skin.
Crane later saying he misspoke after a backlash, including from his fellow Republicans. Meanwhile, in Tuberville's Alabama, a disabled vet reacting to how the military is being used as a political pawn.
Knowing this now, there is no way I would join the military.
As for the defense bill, it stands no chance of passing in the Democratic-led Senate, setting up a potential showdown ahead of the September deadline.
Yeah. There's GOP, ladies and gentlemen. one man is actually blocking a lot. Senator Tommy Tuberville, former NCAA coach, football coach, is holding up 265 military nominations, including one where a 4-star general African American would be over the Air Force, because he does not like the idea that, oh, we love the troops, but we don't want you to have abortions. We don't want you to have hormone and transgender surgeries and hormone treatments. We don't want to reimburse you for going out of state for your abortions, but we love the troops. Do you see the problem here? At the same time, you have individuals out there who have no problem saying colored people. Oh, I misspoke. I did not mean to say colored people. I meant to say, yeah, we know what you meant to say. You're not brave enough to say it in a room full of black folks, but we know what you wanted to say. Ladies and gentlemen, the GOP as it stands, because it's amazing to me that the GOP will always sit there, will show their true colors, because they always sit there and say, we love the troops, we support the troops, and it's bullshit, because they love the troops when they sign up to fight the wars. They ignore the troops when they come back broken, PTSD, and needing all types of assistance. Go to your local VA. Talk to any former or current armed services member. They will gladly tell you what they go through. And again, it is amazing to me that the GOP has the unmitigated gall to sit there and say, we support the troops, when it is the GOP that is holding up the fact of getting key military personnel signed in and put to work. And yet they wonder why the enlistment numbers for armed services is at an all-time low. It's almost like nobody wants to, be a part of a hypocritical group of people. Just my saying. But another thing about the GOP and people like in the good old boy state, and I know I don't really talk about country music that much on here, but again, music itself is an expression. It is. The artist expresses himself, whether it's good, whether it's bad. But in the world of entertainment, there's no such thing as bad press. Jason Aldean is finding out the hard way, because this man is truly showing where he comes from. A little bit racist.
The country superstar is speaking out after CMT pulled the music video for his recent single off the air on Monday. The track is called Try That in a Small Town. Controversy igniting over the song, which has been out since May, with critics saying the lyrics call to an anti-Black Lives Matter and pro-gun message. The track describes protests, violence, and upheaval in cities, while Aldean sings that people performing those actions would not pass in a small town. And the music video depicts news footage from protests and surveillance video of robberies projected onto a courthouse in Tennessee. So yesterday, Jason responded in a lengthy statement on Twitter, writing in part, I have been accused of releasing a pro-lynching song. These references are not only meritless, but dangerous. The singer continuing, Try That in a Small Town for me refers to the feeling of a community that I had growing up, where we took care of our neighbors, regardless of differences of background or belief. We should note, according to a press release, Jason is not credited as a writer for the song. He just started a nationwide tour expected to run through October.
Okay, so it is amazing to me that the song itself, which has been out for a while, because, folks that, how can I put this? Folks will always sit there and defend certain country music. But it's not like Hank Williams, A Country Boy Can't Survive. Nothing is racist about that song. I actually like that song, because not the fact that I'm from Tennessee, because there is some country music I dig, but a song like A Country Boy Can't Survive, cool. Nothing wrong with that. Waylon Jennings, Conway Twitty, again, nothing wrong with those guys. Great country music artists. However, Try That in a Small Town. I mean, the fact that he sat there and he said, try to punch a cop in the face, try that in a small town. Try to protest, try that in a small town. You won't get far. And again, What they talk about in the music video is a courthouse in Columbia, Tennessee, where an 18-year-old man was lynched in front of it. So again, tone deaf. At the same time, why are we surprised? Folks, look, I'll say this once and I'll say it again. Trump made it okay to be open and racist, but be offended if you're called that. He made it okay. Trump's been racist. Oh, you have plenty of black friends. Yeah, you say that, but that's Hollywood. You hobnob. You have to keep yourself relevant. Jason Aldean decides to try that in a small town, but you show protest, you show vandalism, you show attacking the police. Yeah. Again, tone deaf. At the same time, saying exactly what you really are. So, again, take it how you will. I call him a piece of shit. I apologize for my language. Last story I got, guys, before we get to our feel-good segment. Again, state of Illinois is moving forward as they may become the first state to eliminate cash bails. All good, all great things.
Well, in just 60 days, Illinois will become the first state to completely abolish cash bail. The Illinois Supreme Court ruling this morning in a 5-2 decision that key provisions of the Safety Act involving pretrial detention are constitutional. What does this mean? Well, in just 60 days, so starting in September, if someone is accused and arrested of a crime, they no longer will need to pay a dollar amount in order to secure their release. Instead, judges will determine detention based on factors like if the defendant poses a threat or if they are a flight risk. This is a significant change in the criminal justice system here in Illinois. It was a major progressive priority. As many advocates have been saying, this will help reduce disparities and eliminate a wealth-based advantage in the criminal justice system. Listen to a little bit of what we heard from the chief public defender here in Chicago's Cook County.
The decision on who goes to jail or who doesn't will no longer rely on how much money your mother has or your partner has or your grandmother has or your church has or you have. This will literally return tens of millions of dollars to communities that need it most.
Now, opponents have said this law is dangerous and irresponsible. I want to read as part of a statement from the McHenry County State's attorney who was part of the lawsuit against this original law. He writes, the implementation of the Safety Act will make the job of prosecutors, judges, and police more difficult. This law was part of a package of reforms that you saw pass after the murder of George Floyd and pushed by Governor J.B. Pritzker. While we have seen bail reform measures across the country before, notably in New Jersey and in Washington, D.C., none have gone this far. So that's something that we'll definitely be watching closely and something that many advocates and opponents will be taking a close look at, the impact that it ultimately has once it's fully implemented.
And again, I don't see the problem. I'll be honest with you guys. I don't see the problem with it because a lot of people believe that it's going to affect everything. Keep in mind, the whole idea of eliminating cash bail, because simple fact of the matter is incarceration is unfortunately one of the things the United States is actually great at. We incarcerate more people per capita than any other country in the world. So if there's anything that we're number one at, it's that. At the same time, guys, there have been people who have had misdemeanors that were sitting in jail because they couldn't afford the cash. They couldn't afford bail. Imagine that. Imagine you got a misdemeanor. Your bail was set at $1,000. Now, of course, or $5,000. If we're gonna be realistic, say your bail set at $5,000. You can go to a person that does bail, that goes to a person who does bails, does cash bails. And of course, for most people that you go to for bail bonds, they require 10%, which means that if you have a $5,000 cash, if you have a $5,000 bond, you have to come up with $500. How many people in this day and age actually have $500 for emergencies like this? I can go water. How many people have $100 to spare? But that's been the problem. Bail has been this promise that if you get arrested and you get sent to jail, this ensures that you will show up to court. And again, instead of it being reserved for the more heinous crimes, for loss of life or attempted loss of life or terrorism or things of that nature, It's set for everything. And the only group that has actually benefited from it was the private prison industry, because CCA is here in Nashville, Tennessee. And they benefited greatly from incarcerated individuals who couldn't afford bail, who actually had to sit in jail until the court date. The one that still sticks me to this day is Kyle Browder. Kyle Browder in Rikers Island, a man who was accused of stealing a backpack. A backpack sent to Rikers Island, couldn't afford his bail, eventually committed suicide. Think about that for a second. You didn't even get your day in court, accused of stealing a backpack, and that got you in Rikers Island. At the same time, because of theft, he couldn't afford bail, and he's stuck there. And his story is just one of many. So I get it. They're saying, well, it's gonna make the law enforcement and prosecutors' jobs harder. How so? For me, it's like this: if you catch them in the act, then you got them. If the evidence is there, then you got them. But if they are not a danger to society, and the judge can make a decision on that, then let it happen. Because again, at least at that point, they could be released. If that's a misdemeanor, let them go. It's a misdemeanor. Why did he be incarcerated? As I said before, as long as it's not a heinous crime, whether it's if it was rape, if it was murder, if it was attempted murder with a deadly weapon, things of that nature, they should definitely be locked up without bail. But for the lesser crimes, why do they need to be incarcerated? I like the idea of cash bail, because you know why? Because it shows that we do need to be progressive in the fact that not everybody should be treated as a criminal. But not everybody's a hardened criminal. Not everybody. But at the same time, this only affects those that are in bail bonds, because Illinois, for those bail bonds, they are going to take a hit when this becomes law. That's just being honest. They're going to take a hit. But again, guys, it doesn't mean that everybody is not going to be required to post bail. It's just the simple fact of the matter is that there are some out there that just don't need to be in jail, only to sit there and rot. Again, for stealing a backpack, for being accused of stealing a backpack, or being accused of stealing something and never getting your day in court, but rotting in jail all the same, it's just not right, no matter how you look at it. But we're going to move on to our Feel Good segment, guys. As usual, how the fact we got here, we do cover a lot of things that are doom and gloom, sometimes make you use your faith in humanity. However, today is Wednesday, which is hump day, which leads us to our Friday Eve, which is Thursday. And we will leave you guys out some good vibrations. And I am always amazed by the younger generation. Because at 15 years old, I didn't really do a lot outside of school and playing video games. This young lady decides, I'm going to swim around Manhattan.
And finally tonight, America Strong. She's only 15 years old and has just completed an astonishing feat for a great cause. Maya Marriage swims like a fish. And that's exactly what the 15-year-old did overnight, completing a 28.5-mile swim all the way around the island of Manhattan.
I feel really good. I'm a little bit sore.
The marathon swim, known as the 20 Bridges, takes swimmers on a course under 20 bridges.
I think that was number 5.
Maya swam with a team close by, including an observer and her proud parents, completing the challenging open water swim in 8 hours, 43 minutes.
I really like the challenge of it.
There is the George Washington Bridge ahead.
I got to see all of the Manhattan skyline from the water at night.
The rising high school junior from Berkeley, California, is part of Swim Across America to raise money for cancer research.
Knowing that the money that I'm raising makes a difference really encourages me to keep going. And through my fundraising, I hope that we can kind of end cancer.
Her swims over the past 8 years with Swim Across America have raised more than $60,000.
Whatever I'm doing in my swimming, whatever pain I go through in my swims, it's really nothing compared to the struggle that cancer families go through.
While we may know figuratively speaking, Maya knows firsthand what a challenge it is to swim against the current. And her message for us all tonight?
If there's something that you love, keep doing it.
You did it!
Use whatever you love, whatever your passion is, towards something greater.
Go, Maya.
All I can sit there and say is she better be in the Olympics. My goodness, I can't even imagine swimming a pool, much less swimming around a small island in New York. Keyword is in small. It took her 8 hours to swim. 8 hours? Yeesh. Again, kudos to her. That's all I can say. Kudos to her. But anyway, that's going to do it for this podcast, guys. I do thank you all for watching, for liking, for letting people know this is live. I certainly appreciate that. Before I do get out of here, guys, some shameless plugging as usual. Shout out to my buddy Vaughn at Big BZA Dot. You can definitely find him, Big BZA Dot, on all social media. His YouTube 3MG Beat Trap channel, to where all of his beats are free. He does not ding you on anything like some people do on social media. I'm looking at you, YouTube and Facebook. But again, if you are interested in beats, he can definitely make them, and also for sale. But definitely check him out, Big BZA Dot, on all social media. As for myself, guys, you can find me BlackFox447 on all socials. I usually do reviews on everything that I watch, that I read, that I play, and gym stuff, because I love being, fitness is life right now. That's the only thing keep me, aside from my children, my family, and my wife, my wife to be, trying to keep in shape. Just trying to keep in shape. I know that was good and terrible. Yeah, definitely good and terrible. But definitely like and follow me, guys. I am a pretty chill dude. I do like to talk with people, keep the conversation going. Just don't be a dick about it. That's all I ask. Also, the banner at the bottom, let me make that a little bit bigger. If you copy and paste that into your browser, we'll take you to my link tree. That's the YouTube and Facebook groups for all my podcasts. How the Frack We Got Here, Get Bit, and of course, off on this podcast. Definitely like, definitely share, definitely subscribe. Let me know what you think, people. That's what I really want to know. I want to know how I make you feel. Do you feel informed? Do you feel empowered? Do you feel like you need to do a lot more in your local neck of the woods? That's what I am hoping this podcast does for you. At least that's my hope. My hope is that it does. My hope is that it does do that. And again, I'll talk with anybody. Keep the conversation going, but keep it clean. And again, guys, if you have somebody or know somebody who's trying to do something different, what I mean by that is if they have a podcast like moi, if they have a business, if they are trying to start something new and it's going to change their life, or believe that it's their purpose, and they're doing it, it takes $0 to help them out. And what I mean by that is, share, support, share stuff. And again, if you want to do something that's of a donational type, go ahead and do it. It's not required, but like the church donations, they're always welcome. But at the same time, guys, we need to be more about sharing, unifying, really helping people and collaborate, because if we collaborate instead of trying to be competitive, we all win. At the same time, in the words of Issa Rae, I am rooting for everybody Black. That being said, guys, last thing to say about How the Frack We Got Here, it's all about staying informed. We are not trying to reinvent the wheel, people. We are simply giving you all the information allowed you to make up your own mind. But we do provide a lot of perspective that goes along with it. We do better as a society once we're informed. We're progressive. We move forward. We try to change. We try to right our wrongs of our past by making decisions now that we should have done back then. Like electing our first Black person to the Supreme Court, electing our first Black woman to the Federal Board of Governors, electing our first Black woman as a National Cybersecurity Director. All great things. We don't learn from history. We are doing to repeat it. That's what we keep asking ourselves. Why does everything go up at our paychecks? Why are we electing different politicians, but still the same old game in Congress? And most importantly, how the Frack We Got Here. Thank you all for watching, guys. Take care of yourselves and each other, and we will all get through this. Peace.